Welcome to Council Action. I'm Russell Inman, and joining us tonight is Tim Lee from Ward 1. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
You're surviving the heat now that the rain's gone?
We survived the flooding.
Yeah.
Now we're surviving the heat that may turn into a drought.
Yeah,
right?
You never know. You never know. My backyard's ready for some drying out, I can tell you that.
Well, I think we've got a week of 90-degree days this week and next week. If we don't have a lot of rain, your backyard's sure to be dry.
Good.
And I'm no forecaster, but I can tell you that.
And then I'll have to water my grass, right?
Yeah. If only we could portion out all the rain that we got in the last couple weeks. Well, Tim, let's talk about tonight's council meeting. It was a pretty simple meeting for the most part. We had a time for residents to come up and kind of communicate their concerns to the council, and after that we had our public hearings, and the first one on that one was postponed. What was the reason for this postponement?
Well, this is a proposal that's actually in my ward, and
Taste Buds Catering.
It is, and I was a bit surprised because nobody has contacted me, which is a little unusual. Usually when there's something, you know, they'll talk to you and say, you know, would just like to explain it to you and get you, and then they didn't show up tonight either. So I had a whole list of questions that I wanted to ask. They've changed their initial proposal a little bit, and what this is purporting to be is going to be a place where they're going to cater food to take out, like to daycare centers and things like that.
Okay.
But then they're going to open it from, I believe, 2 to 9 to be like a youth gathering place where kids can come, and they're going to, I think they're going to have snacks for them, and they're going to have Wi-Fi and kind of give them a place to hang out. So, but because they haven't contacted me, because they weren't here tonight, we really don't know anymore. So we postpone the public hearing till next week or till the next meeting, and hopefully the owner or their rep will come in and we can ask a lot of those questions. So
it's an interesting concept. It'll be, if they come back in, it'll be interesting to learn a little bit more about how they kind of create this kitchen and youth environment.
We have a lot of questions. Their hours of operation are going to be like from 6 in the morning till midnight. They say most of that, it looks like, will be preparing the food that they're then gonna take out to these other facilities, and but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how.
Okay.
I think 36 is what they'll have there at a time, and I'm not sure how that's going to go over having 36 people. It's good to have them off the street and having a place, but I'm hoping that they have provisions to take care of those kids and make sure that there's no problems when they're there. But we'll find out at the next meeting, I guess.
Tim, does my memory serve me right? Wasn't there a place similar to that that was opening maybe several months ago that we talked about at one of the council meetings?
And to the best of my knowledge, that never came to volition.
Okay.
Yeah, there was that, and there was another place on Highway 67 near Waterford, and I think that place opened briefly and then closed.
Okay.
So, but the place that you're speaking of, I don't think that ever opened. So
Okay.
it's a great concept. I mean,
Maybe this is a hybrid of those two. Maybe those
might
individuals
be.
are coming together, and
Might be.
they need a couple more weeks or maybe a month to get the details.
it'd be interesting to hear.
We had a request to authorize a special use permit to U&J Green Enterprises to do business as Jay's. This is to allow for an operation of a restaurant and lounge located at 12667 New Halls Ferry Road.
Yeah, this is a place, it's in a strip mall, the end of a strip mall. It used to be Old Timers Bar or Tavern, and the proposal that they've brought before Planning and Zoning and the council is to open a restaurant and lounge. They want to do jazz music, cater to a group 30 or older. Okay. And there were several questions by council people tonight because we've had issues in and near that location in the past with noise, not just from the bands, but also in the parking lot when people are leaving at night and they get a little, not even they get loud, they're just out, see you later and all this stuff, and turn their cars on, and that's kind of close to some residential areas. So there were some questions asked about that. The lady did indicate that they planned on having security there, inside security and outside security. So this is in Mr. Schmidt's ward, and I suggested to him that we add that as part of as a stipulation. So I'm sure we'll discuss it more, and you know, that would really help. I mean, if you have security there on the parking lot to control the noise, even if people are just, you know, not being considerate of their neighbors. So So we'll see how that goes at the next meeting. We can do first reading on that as well tonight, and most of our questions, I think, were answered. There were concerns about keeping the parking lot cleaned up, and
I remember those in the past, seeing
Yeah,
the
we've
parking lot
had-
a little bit disheveled.
we've had some
And
problems,
even just
yeah.
parking issues and people parking along the street to,
And we've evidently, she said they've talked with the owners of the building, and she mentioned putting up a fence, which
okay.
Mr. Schmidt was trying to ascertain exactly where this fence was going. And he made the point, he said a fence is not going to keep noise from going,
Yeah.
But, I think the owner wants to cooperate, and you're gonna take the owner and the tenant to both take care of some of the issues that we've had in the past. But we wish them well and hope that they're successful, so.
The second public hearing that we had tonight was a request for a special use permit for Rising Star Academy. This is a children's daycare. Looks like at 3645 Marietta. Now that's in a building that hasn't been used as a daycare for some time.
Yeah, and it brought up some questions as well. It's going to be a 24/7 operation,
Okay.
and which is, I hear, that's becoming more and more predominant with working families and working parents and things like that. So the number that they serve, I think she had said 110. That disturbed me, but if you spread it out over nights and weekends and things, then maybe it's not that big of a deal. But Mr. Joe Egan asked, because it's in his ward, about cleaning that place up, and kind of, it does need some facelifting
It
for
does.
sure.
It does.
And
It was a kindercare, if I remember, back in the day, and it's been several different
since then, it has,
daycares
yeah.
since then, and each time it's kind of taken visually a
Right.
step down. So
Correct.
hopefully this could be a chance for a facelift
Yeah,
at the entrance to that subdivision.
and this lady operates 2 other centers, and I actually think I will drive by and look at the other ones to see, if
Be a
they're.
good plan.
I think she wants to do a good product in that, but it's going to be costly it's a big facility, so to give it the facelift it needs. So
And it's where sometimes these run into trouble. By the time they get open, they get the families in there. Now they're too busy to get some of those improvements
sometimes
made,
that's
and they
how it
realize how
happens.
expensive they are.
That's how it happens sometimes.
The last public hearing tonight was an ordinance authorizing for an approval of a final subdivision of the Lowe's subdivision re-subdivision plat. This is where they're going to take that Lowe's parking lot, right? And they're going to split it off a little bit so something else can get developed on it?
Yeah, this is one of these things that kind of surprised us is that, when the cart came before the horse, we've already approved the Dollar Tree to go in there, and they had the B5 ordinance hearing and everything was all done. And,
Yes.
and somehow, and I don't know how it happened, but there had to be a subdivision of the property because Lowe's is actually selling, or whoever owns that is going to sell an acre of ground. So in order to do that, you have to subdivide it. It had to go through St. Louis County. Evidently, the gentleman indicated that he had a lot of hurdles
Yeah.
with St. Louis County, and it's delayed him about 4 months. So per his request, we went ahead and gave it 3 readings tonight as well and passed it to kind of give him a little extra time. Normally, we would have just done a first reading after the public hearing, but since we've already approved this many months ago, we already knew what was going in, and we knew it was there. It's just a matter of a clerical deal to make sure that the property ownership transfers. And he said they won't allow them to move forward until they have that taken care of, which makes sense.
Months ago, were they really thinking the property would just be leased and not sold off? Was that a change in design?
I'm really not sure. It was my understanding, if I remember correctly, that they had said no, that they would be buying it. It was going to be a standalone business. It wasn't going to be part of it. And I don't know if somebody just forgot to do the subdivision, or I'm just really not sure. Normally we would have thought we would have caught it and said, well, when are you going to do this? But anyway, it's been about 4 months. So
Okay.
I think it was caught when it was coming to the council, and we proceeded with the B5, and then they've been jumping through hoops ever since to get their subdivision approved.
So with this done tonight, now they can start.
They're done. He can go back to his investors and people and say, we're ready to close on the property. We're done. We've got everything approved that we need to get done. So
Well, we'll see that development there with Lowe's, and then we've got the Walmart that's literally right next door, about ready to open, it seems.
My unofficial word is that they're going to try to do a grand opening the end of August.
End of August.
However, they may open sooner than that if they're ready to go. So, but
Great.
you didn't hear it from me. That was one of those secret things that we're not supposed to know. But they are working hard, and I know they're way ahead of the original schedule, which was October. So, I know that they want to get open as well. So, hopefully, get them ready to go.
Great. No second readings tonight. We had one request that was for a beer and wine liquor license at Nor 16 LLC. It's a gas mart, so a gas station there on North Highway 67.
Yeah, pretty much just a housekeeping thing. It has to be approved.
We mentioned the first few items that were on first reading tonight. They were public hearings. But we had an ordinance appropriating the sum of $43,000 from the General Revenue Fund, the budget account for purpose of covering costs for workers' compensation, property, cyber liability insurance. Cyber liability insurance? What's going on with that?
Interesting enough is the city doesn't have that kind of insurance, and I know that St. Louis County did, and after the Ferguson things, when there was all the hacking going on,
Sure.
St. Louis County did have to use experts to come in because their website was getting, it really wasn't getting hacked. I'm trying to think of what they call it. They just send so many requests to it that it basically takes it down and stresses it and creates problems.
Okay.
The goal is to get into the website and to crash it and do all those kinds of things. So the cyber liability insurance is something we're looking at, and we're going to put it in the bill, and there probably will be more discussion. The workman's compensation, and we had a long memo about it, but basically what happens is every year we're rated, and the city has enjoyed if you stay below a 1%, whatever this 1% figure is, and we've always been under it for the past 7 or 8 years, but what's happened is that all the bills after Officer Mike Vernon, after the shooting, those have now come to where when they're rating us, they're looking at that, and we went to like 1.3%. So in essence, instead of getting a discount for having low incidences of workman's comp, we end up having to pay a surcharge, and that will affect us, Mr. McDaniel said, for basically for the next 2 years, because they're looking at a period of time. It's taken this long to catch up with us, but so it wasn't something we budgeted for. And then, like I say, the cyber liability insurance was something we're just kind of looking at to see how that would help us in the effect that we were attacked. And if you may recall that we did take our website down during all that stuff just as a precaution, because there were issues that the other cities were going through, and specifically St. Louis County. So it's something we're looking at, and it was relatively inexpensive, about $7,000. And I haven't seen a policy. I'm not sure exactly what it covers and doesn't cover, sure. But I think what it does is that in the event of a problem, it allows us to bring the experts in to fix the issues and things like that. So my limited knowledge of computers and stuff is $7,000 isn't a lot of money to try to fix something that's been hacked or been met with. So.
And we had the next one was working with the mayor and the North Lafayette Street reconstruction project.
Yeah, the next two actually we'll take them together. If you want to. One is the North Lafayette project. The other one is the pedestrian signal replacement at Robinwood School. This is federal funding and federal money that we're able to take advantage of. But in order to finalize everything, we have to enter into the agreement with them on these specific projects in order for the allocation to go through and things. So these are things that we want to do, and it's just more or less a housekeeping error to say that we allow the mayor to enter into that formal agreement so that we can get that funding that we need and are available to us. So.
Well, that finished up the meeting, Tim. We have a lot of good council announcements that were mentioned. Donating food to the team, making sure that the residents are locking their cars at night. Fireworks. Do you want to speak on the fireworks issue a little bit? Yeah,
I've been pretty much a lifelong resident of Florissant, and I don't know if it's because the 4th of July fell on a Saturday this year, but that's not really an excuse because it started before 4th of July too. There just seemed to be an inordinate number of fireworks that were going off in our residential areas, and there were some loud, some big things. I know in my
I think
area.
They got bigger this year.
Well, it just appeared that to everybody
selling
that
them.
it did.
They're selling
Yeah,
something
I don't know
different.
where they're getting them, but, and several I received numerous complaints and issues and things about it. And one evening, I guess it was Thursday night, it was right about 10 o'clock, and my wife went out on our deck to listen because it was just a loud barrage. Almost like there was a display going on at a school or something, but it wasn't. It was neighborhood stuff. So the mayor was very concerned about it. There is a press release that's going out from the mayor's office. He met with the chief of police, and the council has expressed concerns. And what we're trying to do is more or less just say to our residents, it's illegal to possess or distribute or sell or set off fireworks in the city of Florissant, period. You can't do it. It's against the law. So we may have been somewhat lax and looking the other way for a few hours on 4th of July night and things like that, but it's gotten kind of bad this year. So we're gonna be very aggressive in the future, and everybody forewarned that it is against the law, and we're gonna make sure because of safety reasons and all the other things. And the mayor pointed out, for those that didn't get an opportunity, my wife and family and sister and nephews, we were all up at the Florissant fireworks display at the James J. Egan Center, and once again, it was an outstanding display.
It doesn't get much better.
It was interesting because we found out that the county police helicopter set up back by McClure North, and they were watching our fireworks display. So it must have been pretty good if they were there of all of them they could have been at. But it's a good afternoon, and they start with the North Winds Band who plays earlier, and it's just a good atmosphere, and the fireworks were outstanding. Traffic getting out is always a little bare, but it was really good. So that was the thing that the mayor wanted to stress, and it was brought up again, is that knock off the fireworks, because it's a danger, and it's something that bothers neighbors and so forth, and it shouldn't be happening. So
that's what the residents need to remember that are setting them off. People still need to go to sleep.
Yep.
Try not to set them off too late, and you kind of understand a little bit on the 4th of July, but the days before and after, it's got to come to an end.
And I had a resident whose front yard was actually caught on fire and burnt some holes, and he actually was afraid. He got a ladder and climbed on his roof because he was afraid that these things were coming down right in the middle of a subdivision, like right in the street, but and they weren't even in an isolated place. And he got up because he was afraid of damage to his roof or fire or something. So
we had another council member mentioned solicitors having badges. So speak to that. That was interesting, and I hadn't heard brought up here at the council before, but solicitors walking around door to door, I guess they have to be approved by the city.
Well,
and they wear a badge to show that?
They have to come in. We sell a solicitor's license.
Okay.
And what it is that they have to come in, they have to provide ID, we have to know who they are, we have to know who they represent, what they're doing, where they're at, and then they're actually issued a license. And at least that way we know who's in our subdivisions and who's in our neighborhoods doing things. And we're seeing more and more from big companies like Spectrum to little companies to alarm companies. We're starting to see a whole lot more. And I actually had somebody at my door one day, and I asked them, I said, do you have it? And they go, well, we don't know anything about it. I said, well, I'd strongly suggest you contact City Hall and go find out. It's just, Mr. Jones talked about getting some no solicitor signs, and if you want to put them on your door, I don't know if that helps or not, but I guess one of the fears from a safety standpoint is that people are knocking on doors and you don't know who they are, and are you going to let them in your house, or if you're not home, are they going to say, hey, these people aren't home, or it just creates some uneasiness. But it seems like there's been more lately than not, and a couple council people did receive some complaints and questions about it, and just something to be aware of. Back to what we said, I've said this, you've heard me say it before, about if you see something unusual in your neighborhood, you know what goes on in your neighborhood, you know what's normal and what's not. If you see something unusual, 831-7000 is the non-emergency number. Call, say, hey, I'd just like to have somebody check it out. If you think it's an emergency, call 911. That's what we're here for. That's why the city police are there to help us. So.
And Tim, the last bit of good news that was shared tonight is the Sunset Trails is back open.
It is open. They've completed the work at the bottom, and it's open. And
Floodings receded enough for the residents to use it?
yeah, the water got up. First we had it was closed because of the washout a year or so ago. That was repaired, and then we had some flooding down there, so we closed it for safety things as well. So
we're back open if you're ready to
if you're ready to take the walk.
The 95-degree weather.
And I'll tell you,
take a walk.
as I can tell you that going down the trail is really not too bad. Coming up the trail is a little rough, but we got some benches there.
That's right. Take a break.
Kind of rest on the way. So,
Tim, thanks for sharing your time with us this evening, going through the agenda, talking to the residents here, the city of Florissant, to know what's going on.
All right.
Okay. Thank you for watching. I'm Russell Inman. We'll see you next time.